All right, apologies about that. We're gonna just go ahead and get started. So this is our agenda for today. So we'll be kicking off the event with an icebreaker / check-in. We'll have introductions from everyone on the call, and we'll also introduce the panelists for today as well as the facilitators. We'll have an overview of what is your CAC as well as what is the political education campaign. We'll also talk a little bit about where the DA accountability is at the moment right now. And then we'll have an overview of the history of the DA as well as the resources that you can utilize to learn more. We'll have an activity that will be led by EJ and Maureen. And then we'll also have questions to our panelists and end the workshop with a call to action as well as a closing. So the icebreaker for today is, what is one thing you know about the power of the district attorney, and or what is the way you distress and decompress for self-care? And I'm gonna go ahead and popcorn it. And when you just, after you give your answer, go ahead and popcorn it to someone else. I'll popcorn it first to Liz Suck. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Liz Suck, she, they pronouns from Oakland Rising. The one thing that I know about the power of the district attorney is that they have the power to not incarcerate our people. And one way that I decompress is I love to dance. I will pass it to Frankie.
Hi, everyone. One thing that I know about the DA, the power of the DA, is whether or not to hold killer cops accountable. They have that power. And one way that I de-stress is to lay down and take timed 15 minutes, close my eyes, not even naps, but just pretend naps.
Damn,
and I will popcorn it to David.
Frankie, was that me or
David?
Else? Oh, David. Okay, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hi, my name is David. He, him, his. Policy intern in the Urban Peace Movement. And, and if I'm not mistaken, one of the powers of the DA is they have the discretion to charge those wobbler charges as misdemeanors or felonies. And one way I decompress is I clean my yard. Oh, I'll popcorn it to Danny.
Hi, you guys. Danny, he, him, his, with the Justice Reinvestment Coalition of Alameda County. The power of the DA, I think the power of the DA, they have a lot of power, especially they oversee the entire county, whether to prosecute our community or not. So one way that I do distress is by watching Netflix, definitely not Squid Game. I'll go with Jay.
Thank you, Danny. One thing I know about the power of the DA is they really have the power to either influence or end mass incarceration by, how they charge people and whether they send them to prison or not, or alternatives to incarceration. So they have a lot of power in influencing our current state of mass incarceration. What is one thing I do to de-stress is I like to go for runs. I like to go out there and go for a good jog and outside, and just it really helps me decompress. And I'll pass it to Angelo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Angelo Sandoval, Senior Organizer and Legal Advocate at the Icebreaker Center. My pronouns are he, him. And to decompress, I spend time with my 3-year-old daughter. So I will pass it to Maureen.
Thanks, Angelo. My name's Maureen Kildee. I'm in the Clean Slate Unit at the East Bay Community Law Center. My pronouns are she, her, hers. One thing I know about the district attorney is that they have the power to never send a youth to adult court and keep all youth in the juvenile legal system. And one thing I do to distress is lately sew. And I will pass it to Terry.
Hi, everyone. Terry McWilliams, Faith in Action East Bay, his, hers, she, hers, hers. One thing I know about the district attorney, I think everybody has said that already. And one of the ways, what do I do to de-stress and decompress is I like to go for walks. And I can only see Jay, Maureen, David, and Danny, and I'm not sure if David is gone.
I can help you, Terry, on passing it on. We can pass
Okay,
it on
thank you.
to Mike Cheng.
Hi, everybody. Mike Cheng, Reentry Manager with Asian Prisoner Support Committee. Pronouns are he, him. One thing I know about the power of the district attorney is the district attorney can choose whether or not they want to formally oppose somebody who's going to the parole board after when they are up for parole. This could potentially negatively impact a person's chance to be released. And they generally, when they oppose, a lot of times they don't even really look into the merit of a person and whether or not they even want to. A lot of them just oppose on general principle. One thing I do to de-stress is I like to go on hikes, and if I don't have time to do a hike, at least a walk outside. And I will pass it to Brianna.
I'm sorry, you all. What is the? Oh wait, it's here. Hello, everyone. I'm Brianna. I'm holding, guys. Sorry, I'm reading the check-in question on the screen. What do I know about the power of the district attorney? They, I'm trying to think of something. I know that they are in charge of like the cases or like trying to get somebody a sentence, I think. I don't know. Sorry, y'all. Sometimes I like to like read a book and then get new plants to self-care and stuff like that. And I will pass it to, I'm not sure who hasn't gone. Honestly, I kind of like just hopped on the call, y'all. So I'll pass it to whoever has not went.
Okay, thank you so much, Brianna, and thank you so much, everyone. Just in respect of time, we're going to move forward from the icebreaker just so we can get started with the workshop as well. But thank you so much for everyone who shared, and those who haven't shared, feel free to share your introductions in the chat. So I just wanted to also quickly, briefly introduce all of the panelists here today who've taken their time to honor us and also educate us about these resources as well as valuable information. So I'll go ahead and pass it from my left to right. So Danny, if you can just say your name, pronouns, and the organization you're with.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danny Thongsi. I'm with the Justice Reinvestment Coalition of Alameda County. My pronoun is he, him, his. So I'll pass it to EJ.
Hey, folks. EJ with Urban Peace Movement, campaign director, pronouns he, his. And I'll pass it over to Jay.
Hey everyone, my name is Jay Vasquez, pronouns he, him. I work with Courage. Nice to be here, and I'll pass it to Maureen.
Hi, everybody. Maureen with East Bay Community Law Center. My pronouns are she, her, and I believe that leaves John.
Hey, everybody. I'm John Cannon. Pronouns he, him. I'm a policy fellow at Legal Services for Prisoners with Children and a member of All of Us Are None.
Thank you, everyone. And I'm Raylan. I'm with the GRC-AC as a Dr. Prince White Fellow, and I'll be facilitating and leading some of these workshops as well. And I'm going to go ahead and pass over the mic to Danny to talk a little bit about GRC-AC, our poly-ed campaign, as well as our ongoing campaigns at the moment. Go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, thanks, Raylan. Yeah, so once again, everybody, welcome. So just a little bit about the Justice Reinvestment Coalition in Alameda County, in acronym JRC. So the JRC is a coalition comprised of community-based advocacy organization committed to creating a fair and just public safety system based on effective practices that invest in our communities, our families, and our people. So basically what we focus on is divestment and reinvestment back into our community. That's why we fight so hard, especially at the Board of Supervisor hearing with their, reallocation of funding. We want them to fund our community, not law enforcement and so forth. So we have our coalition meeting twice a month, which is first Thursday from 12 to 2, then every third Wednesday from 2 to 4. We are currently working with our allies on several campaigns targeting key stakeholders here in Alameda County, such as probation, sheriff, DA, board of supervisor, public defenders, and judges. So these are some of our campaigns. The free for the youth justice. We work with our Free Our Kids Coalition, which is to propose a plan to build a youth justice system that prioritizes and prevention of the criminalization and incarceration of our children and building youth leadership. And for the adult side and mental health, we work with our Decarcerated Alameda County Coalition, implementation of the Care First Health, focusing on prioritizing mental health over incarceration. Another part of our campaign is the DA accountability and / participatory defense, which we meet with the public defender office as well as the district attorney. Another aspect of our campaign is the reentry AB 109 work group, focusing on, and also our political education campaign, which we have here. So today's presentation is a part of our political education campaign. How did we come about with this? Basically, during the November election, many people were interested in election, especially the presidential election. But when it comes down to local laws and policy and stakeholders, which have direct local and county influence on our livelihood, our community are not aware of it. So with this campaign, we hope to educate and empower our community because these stakeholders work for us. We hold them accountable and that the decision that they make should benefit our community. So for more information and update on our current campaign, you can go to our website at jrcofac.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danny. And I would just like to add also in regards to the political education campaign that we will be hosting workshops as well as sharing resources on all of our social media at GRC AC, as well as having monthly workshops in regards to educating and informing the community about this different valuable information. And we're going to go ahead and watch this quick video of a quick overview about the DA.
Hey, John Legend here. Lately, I've joined the fight to end mass incarceration, and I've been meeting with many important figures involved with the criminal justice system across the country. But there is one group I want to talk about today: district attorneys. Within a single role, they have the power to decide who gets criminal charges filed against them, the severity of those charges, or if charges get filed at all. And this covers everything from theft, drug crimes, environmental crime, violent crimes, and more severe cases such as rape or murder. These are the responsibilities of your district attorney. Your initial reaction might be that justice is being fairly served. But understand that despite state and federal laws, the influential power they carry allows them to prioritize or deprioritize how those laws are enforced and who they are enforced against. They literally have the power to send people to prison for life and send people to death row. Armed burglary by a teen is a crime, but the DA decides whether that young person is thrown away or treated through rehabilitation. In a single decision, free from accountability, DAs can funnel people into the prison system, trapping them in the revolving door of mass incarceration. Equally so, they can give them a second chance. These DAs represent our voice, but most of our DA's actions don't represent what we believe. Let's take a look at Proposition 47, which reduced the penalties for certain nonviolent offenses. In California, the majority voted to pass the proposition, but only 2 of the 58 district attorneys at the time agreed. With all the power the DA holds, they can operate in a bubble, and if not aligned with the people, can undermine the winning proposition. When no one is watching, there is no accountability. The district attorney is an elected position which represents your interests in the criminal justice system. It's up to you to hold them accountable, which starts by getting to know them. The power you have starts with just saying, Hey.
Thank you so much for that video, which is very jam-packed with information that's needed of what the DA has roles and powers over. I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic to EJ Pavia, who can then talk a little bit about our campaign DA accountability and in regards to where it is now, as well as the events that are ongoing. Go ahead, EJ.
Thank you, everybody. And hopefully you can see my screen. Thank you all for joining us, even though we're virtual. Typically, we'd fill a room with hundreds of people, but we're glad that folks are either watching online or maybe watching later, and folks are actually in this Zoom room with us today. So I'll be going over local efforts to hold our county's DA accountable. As you saw from the video, they have a lot of power. And as you heard from our check-in, there are a variety of different ways that we could push them to do the right thing, unless folks aren't watching, right? As we also saw in the video. So for this section, I'm going to go over specifically Alameda County, but I want to highlight this website. It's called meetyourda.org. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can look at this website and learn more about every district attorney in California. As you can see, we have everybody listed here, so you can see where they stand, like John Legend mentioned in the video, on popular reforms. So let's go ahead and zoom into Alameda County, shall we? In Alameda County, the district attorney is Nancy O'Malley, who took office in 2009. Here you have contact information for the Alameda County District Attorney. If you have an issue you'd like to address or concern, you can contact them here. You have a report that was put together by a lot of folks over the past couple years that addresses data and research relating to the policies and practices of the Alameda County District Attorney. And down here, we have sort of where they line up with the popular reforms that were referenced in the video. So here, Prop 20, broad summary, it changed criminal sentencing, parole, and DNA collection initiative. This was passed and voted, this was voted against by 70.5% of Alameda County voters. And D. O'Malley remained neutral on this prop, did not take a position. In terms of Prop 17, which was relating to the voting rights and restoration for persons on parole, people regaining that right to vote. 73.9% of people in Alameda County voted in favor for this. D. O'Malley also remained neutral on this proposition, did not take a position. In terms of Prop 64, legalizing the adult use of marijuana, many would also describe this as decriminalizing marijuana, undoing the harmful practices that have taken place over the last 30, 40, 50 years even. 66% of Alameda County residents voted in favor. Alameda County, as we see here, also remained neutral. Prop 57, which increased parole chances for some individuals in prison. 77% of people in Alameda County voted in favor. And as we can see here, D. O'Malley also remained neutral in this proposition. Prop 47, which reduced some crimes from felonies to misdemeanors. 74% of Alameda County voted in favor. As we can see here, actually, D. O'Malley opposed this proposition, so she was not with the voters on this prop. And finally, with Prop 36, which reformed the 3 strikes law in California, 79% of Alameda County voters were in favor. And our county's DA was not taking a position on this. And as it was mentioned in the video, it's important for us to understand not just what's happening in the courtroom, but where they stand on issues in general. There are a variety of issues on this website that you can take a look at to figure out where do you stand on these different issues. And in Alameda County, we've taken a variety of approaches to hold our local district attorney accountable. One of the successes that we've had was we advocated for an update to the county's immigration policy. Their immigration policy had a line item in there that, I'm not a legal person, so I'm not going to make an attempt to explain it. Maybe one of our panelists can explain it later. But it increased the chances for folks who are undocumented from the immigrant community to potentially have worse outcomes, when they come in contact with the legal system. Through our advocacy, we were able to get an update to that to limit the harm that is caused to the immigrant communities when they do come in contact with the legal system. Additionally, our advocacy has also led to an update in the way in which district attorneys show up at parole hearings. You might have heard one of the people check in earlier that oftentimes when people go to parole after 10, 15, maybe 20 years, 25 years, they're a completely different person than they were when they were first accused of whatever it is they were accused of. And it's, at least to me personally, still shocking that district attorneys play a role in those parole hearings because they have no contact with that person. So we were able to successfully advocate for them to limit the way in which they're showing up. And oftentimes, as many people have mentioned, they show up and they just oppose people being released just off the bat. So that was a success for us also. And where are we at currently? Currently, we're encouraging to the fullest extent the implementation of AB 2942. We want to see as many people released now that district attorneys across the state, not just in Alameda County, district attorneys across the state. So if you're in LA, if you're in Fresno, if you're in Tulare, your district attorney has the power to resentence people from your county. I'm going to say that again. Your district attorney has the power to resentence people from your county. Doesn't matter how much time they've done. It doesn't matter if they've done 1 year. It doesn't matter if they've done 25. There's a lot of power that they have, and we're trying to see the full implementation of AB 2942. And there are going to be some others later today that will speak a little more directly to this. So with that, we're going to move into a couple scenarios. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying today's workshop is a very, very broad overview. The scenarios that we're going to be sharing are a couple options that DAs could consider when they're making a decision about a particular individual. But there are actually a lot of different options that they could choose. So I'm just going to preface it by saying that. So let's go check out some of these scenarios, shall we? And I just also want to acknowledge, content warning. A lot of the things that we're going to be talking about today hit close to home for a lot of us. So if you need to step away, if you need to do whatever you got to do to take care of yourself, it might bring up some things, right? Our intent here is really to be as educational as possible, and we hope that folks are in a good place to be able to receive the information we're providing today. So here is a question. Someone who is unhoused, they're suffering from acute mental illness and experiencing some psychosis. They might attack somebody walking by. The attack resulted in some injuries to the passerby, including a broken finger. There are a couple options here. So let's say this is option A up above. The DA's office could pursue the maximum felony charge with a maximum of 4 years in state prison, plus a 3-year enhancement for great bodily injury. Another option, let's call it option B, they could pursue a misdemeanor charge and require mental health treatment with the goal of helping the person stabilize their mental illness and establish ongoing care and acquire housing. Let's go ahead and see what the potential outcomes could be for these options. So if they went with the first option, after 7 years, the person would be locked up in state prison and released back into the community. Virtually, their condition would not have been changed. They would be released still without, a place to stay, oftentimes. We know that people, even with family members, I can attest to this personally. When folks even do have family members, they're released and they don't have a place to stay. They don't have work. They don't have transportation. They don't have a means to really make it right day to day, other than the, what is it, $200 they give you when you're released. So that's option A. And finally, let's go with option B. People who suffer from untreated mental illness can become stable with actual proper treatment and support. And oftentimes that proper treatment and support cannot happen within a prison cell, within a prison. In addition to providing them with wraparound mental health and supportive services, it would be actually far more cost effective than actually incarcerating somebody for 7 years. Again, these are just two options. There are a variety of things that could be done in this type of situation, but let's go ahead and go on to another scenario. And I'm going to ask my colleague Maureen to help me out with this one. And I'm going to go ahead and keep the screen share on.
Thank you, EJ. In our next scenario, after successfully completing probation for drug sales after a year, a 21-year-old person is again arrested for selling crack cocaine on the street. And like EJ said, there are many options that a DA can advocate or push for, but we have two here. The first option is that you could send this young person to a mentor diversion program. Well, they would be paired up with a volunteer mentor who would provide them with specialized programming and supervision. So they're paired up one-on-one with someone who can provide support and information and just really gets to know that person and has a treatment plan specialized to that person. A second option is that the district attorney could pursue the maximum for felony charges. Drug sales carry a 5-year sentence, plus there can be a 3-year enhancement for the prior conviction that is mentioned. So someone can get sentenced to 8 years in prison for drug sales. So there are options in between that, but different options that the DA pursues reflect different values of the office. So it's important to see how they generally deal with each type of case. And there is that the mentor diversion would allow them to have a coach that would hopefully that would support them in not committing future offenses. If the person breaks the rules of the program or gets kicked out, the district attorney can at that point decide to pursue another track, but at least this way the person has an opportunity to veer out of the system. And then for the maximum felony charges in prison, they would be 29 when they're released from prison, have a felony on their record, which affects housing and job seeking, student loans, all kinds of things. I think there are 24,000 different consequences that come with a conviction. Sorry, my chat popped up. They greatly increase all of these collateral consequences, plus the prior conviction, increase the chance that this person, now an adult, will commit future crime due to lack of opportunity for a lot of reasons that EJ mentioned in the prior scenario.
Thank you, Maureen. And I do want to add just one quick I know I've mentioned this a few times, but again, these are only a couple options in this scenario, right? In this option, there is a possibility too that the person that wouldn't have to come back to court, right? There are options where the person could completely be diverted out of the system, and community members who know the person and love the person could actually care for them and not have, this scenario where the person then goes back to court if X, Y, or Z, is not fulfilled or whatnot, right? And oftentimes, at least from what we've seen in our research, is that sometimes it's a minor thing that someone does not fulfill that then lands them back in court, lands them back into the system, lands them back into that revolving door. So I just wanted to share that. And to really hold district attorneys accountable, it's going to require every community member that cares about this issue, which probably should be all of us, to be real. We're going to require a lot of creativity, a big vision, to see something completely different than we've seen for the last 30, 40 years. So with that, I'm going to pass it back over to our moderator, our host for today. And I believe you might be taking a quick little break. So I'll pass it over to you, Raylan.
Yes, thank you all so much. We're going to be taking a quick break for 2 minutes and we'll come back at 11:43. And then we'll hop right back into a Q&A as well as hear from our panelists with some questions. Thank you. That break helped a little bit in stretching, maybe grabbing some water. We're going to go ahead and get started with our Q&A as well as our panel. So for our Q&A, I do know that we have some questions that were dropped on the chat, and I'm just going to go ahead and read that. So the question that was asked earlier was if we can talk a little bit more about sentence enhancement. And I'm going to go ahead and pass that on to Danny to direct that to one of our panelists.
Yeah, thanks, Raylan. Yeah, regarding sentence enhancement. So the question that was asked on the chat is that, let me see. Can you clarify a little bit more about what sentence enhancement is, and also how does that impact a person case? I would probably go with let's go with Maureen on this.
I can give a quick overview, and then if Jay or someone else wants to hop in. But a sentence enhancement is a sort of addition to a charge that adds the potential of more time in prison if someone is convicted. So if you're convicted of an assault and it has a maximum of 4 years, if they have an enhancement for great bodily injury, it ups that 4 years to a higher number. If they say that if there's an enhancement saying that it was for the benefit of a gang, it's called a gang enhancement. That can add a lot of time to the maximum time that a judge can send someone to prison. There's enhancements for if there's a high weight of drugs being sold, they can add extra time for that. So there's all kinds of things that don't actually fit the definition of the crime that was allegedly committed, but can add more time to that person's sentence. It can add significantly more time. A gun enhancement can add up to life. So we're talking from small amounts all the way up to making a sentence a life sentence that the original crime would not be a life sentence. And I don't know if someone wants to add something to that.
I got something real quick, Maureen. Yeah, that was a great explanation of a sentence enhancement. But I think it's also important to recognize that when we look at the data, especially here in California, how the sentence enhancements are applied, over certain races, we see huge disparities between who is getting charged with the sentence enhancement. Right? Primarily, we see a lot of Black and brown folks getting charged with sentence enhancement. So say a white person and a Black person commit a similar crime, chances are the DA will pursue enhancements against the Black person or the white person. We see that time and time again. And so that is another huge issue with sentence enhancements, as the racial disparities being given out by district attorneys. Just want to highlight that.
And if I could even just share a quick anecdote. I have a loved one who the only time they had to spend in state prison was because of enhancements. They sat pre-trial, not convicted of anything. They hadn't pled guilty to anything for over 1.5 years. And once they finally just were tired of, the process, right? They're tired of just experiencing it. They're like, let's just get this over with. They're like, all right, I'll just plead. What do you want me to plead to? The only time left for them was for enhancements. And the enhancement, which thankfully, because of the work of a lot of amazing people across the state of California, you cannot be charged with this enhancement anymore. But this person got charged with priors, so prison priors. So for however many times you've been to prison before, you get an additional year. So they got an additional 3 years because they had been 3 times. And that was the only amount of time that they had to spend actually in state prison. So you think of the whole false idea that you do the time, or you do the crime, supposedly you do the time, right? And then you're supposed to pay your debt to society. Oftentimes we see DAs continue to bring up people's past to try to continue to shuffle people back into the system. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you all so much for the panelists. We also have another question, and this asks that, can the panelists comment on the roles of the district attorney play in opposing an individual seeking a pardon or commutation, and how that can impact deportation cases? And I'll just give that to anyone on the panel who may be able to share an answer.
Yeah, let me try to answer this question real quick. So let me see, can a panelist comment on the role district attorney play in opposing an individual seeking a pardon or commutation, how that can impact deportation cases? Yeah, definitely. Let me see here, for individuals that's seeking a pardon or commutation, having the district attorney not oppose those requests or application, I think that it will weigh like in favor of the individual compared to the district attorney opposing it. I could give an example later on, just about my situation as we move forward to our panelist discussion.
Thank you so much for that, Danny. And I'm going to go ahead and move on to our panel. So for our first question for our panel, I'm going to have Danny Townsey answer this question, which states, what are the consequences of charging youth as adults? Can you share your experience with the intersection of immigration and incarceration?
Yeah, this is this question right here really hits home for me. For one thing, that I myself was a youth offender as well, and pretty much have experienced the weight of this question within itself. For one aspect, the consequences that it'll have for youth is that a longer prison sentence, and it'll paralyze the growth of the youth, perpetuate or create more trauma for youth. And if they are non-citizen or green card holder, it'll put them in this limbo of the deportation pipeline. And also they'll suffer many barriers with any type of conviction when they do come home, as also, like, different states have different consequences as well. As in California, we see that before we have progressive reform, before then, a lot of folks that have a background barrier will suffer a lot of discrimination within employments and so forth like that. And there's still a lot more discrimination against folks that has conviction. So just a little bit about just my experience with the intersection within itself. So I was 17 years old at that time. I wasn't a US, a citizen. I was a green card holder. So after my older brother was killed, I fell into this deep depression. I didn't know how to seek for help, to ask for help. So because of all this grief, this emotion, it led me to commit a crime at the age of 17. So what had happened was, at the age of 17, I was tried as an adult. So what that means was that instead of giving, the minimum, which what the DA could have done, which would charge me as a youth, would sentence me to CYA at the age of 25, I would have come home. But instead, I was charged as an adult, given the maximum sentence, which was 50 years plus something to life. But because of my public defender were able to get a deal, which was 27 years to life. So I spent about 20 years in prison. So after getting parole, I was sent directly to immigration for deportation. And because of that, it put me in this limbo. So when I came home, fortunately, I had support from the community. That's why I was able to find housing and employment, and also was able to, thrive out here. But just imagine, the percentage of folks that are in my situation, they don't have the support, that opportunity, and many of them have been deported back to their country of origin within itself. So just think about all of this consequences that when the DA charged youth as an adult, that's what it would do to them.
Thank you so much, Danny, for sharing your story and empowering all of us. And just want to also share, right, that the ICE and incarceration pipeline still very much so and evidently still exists. And it still is something that we are currently fighting, right? I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next panelist. And I'm going to direct this, this question to John. And the question states, as directly impacted, how has your awareness been changed with your experience with the DA in regard to the systems in place?
Yeah, thank you for this question. But just my experience with the DA, just like Danny, I was charged while I was still a youth. I was 16 years old and I got charged with a robbery, and they certified me as an adult. And the DA is the one that chose what charges, what they chose to arbitrarily charge me as an adult, and then they chose what to charge me with in the first place. And they stacked charges on me in order to leverage a guilty plea out of me at a young age. And when I got to the county jail, the DA was the one that requested the judge to hike my bail because I was homeless and with no family support. So that made me a flight risk. So the judge ended up following the DA's recommendation. I also learned while I was in there that the DA had the power to either dismiss my case or to divert me to a program or treatment center or any alternative program that would invest in the youth instead of locking me away for years. But even after I ended up signing my deal, the DA recommended a higher sentence to the judge, and once again the judge concurred with the DA and gave me a higher sentence. And I just remember every time being in the court, also the DA, she would like always just look at me like just with a disgusted look, and I just couldn't help but wonder how a person that didn't even know me could hate me so much, and why did that person have so much power, and who's even overseeing her to ensure that she's not abusing that power. So my experience with the DA is just eye-opening because I didn't know any of that before.
Thank you so much, John, for sharing your story as well. And yeah, it's very impactful and also just right, like showing then and amplifying the ways that DA could have helped your case, right? Others as well. So thank you for that. And I'm gonna go ahead and pass this question to our panelist, Jay Vasquez. Can you discuss what AB 2942 is and share your experience with that?
Definitely, thank you, Raylan. Yeah, so AB 2942 is an assembly bill that was signed into law in September 2018, took effect January 1st of 2019. And so what this does is it gave the DA new powers to resentence someone, right? And so, you know, the DAs have a lot of power to sentence people, to recommend certain sentences. And we see huge disparities, people getting a lot of years. You know, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, and they may have been incarcerated for 10 years. And we see a lot of people turn their lives around. So what we're seeing is a lot of people when they're incarcerated, you know, look back on your own life and see how much you've changed during the past 10, 20, 15 years. And you're going to see some dramatic changes. And we see a lot of that in people that are incarcerated as well, especially young people, you know, like John and Danny and myself that went to prison at a very young age, have a great capacity for personal transformation. We see that time and time again. But yet a lot of young people are given a lot of years that, you know, may not come home until they're in their 50s or 60s or 70s, or even potentially just grow old and die in prison of old age. And so what this bill is intended to do is to correct some of those injustices of those, you know, unjust punishment system, prison sentences that the DAs hand out. And this gives a power to the DA to recommend or resentence or recall to people that are incarcerated. Now, keep in mind, there are no carve-outs with this bill. So that means it could apply to people with life without parole. It could pertain to anybody, really. So the DA has a lot of discretion on who they can resentence, right? And so And I'll highlight some people that turn their lives around, and I just want to just highlight that. But it could be anybody that has these huge sentences. And so my experience with the Participatory Defense Hub of Alameda County is to pressure DA O'Malley to resentence individuals. So we work with families. We want to highlight the positive changes that they've made while incarcerated. We want to show that they have a loving and positive support system upon release, and that it serves no useful purpose to keep this person incarcerated any longer. It now costs on average $112,000 a year to keep someone incarcerated in the California Department of Corrections. Think about that. How many of your salaries are $112,000 a year? That's a lot of money. And so why are we keeping these people locked up when they've shown through their behavior, through their actions while incarcerated, they're rehabilitated? And so what this bill does is it allows the DA to resentence people, and we help the families advocate for their loved ones to pressure the DA to resentence their loved ones to come home. And so that's my experience, 2942. Every county, 58 counties in California have this authority. The DAs have this authority. So please look it up in your county and see how you can pressure the DA to resentence individuals to come home to our communities to be productive members. It's a waste of money to keep people incarcerated, paying over $100,000 a year. And so, yeah, let's definitely advocate, get involved, and let's bring people home.
Thank you so much, Jay, for sharing your experience as well as educating us on the ways we can plug in for the AB 2942. And unfortunately, we do have 2 other questions for our panelists, but in regards and respecting everyone's time here, we'll go ahead and just skip over and talk a little bit about the ways everyone can get involved, right? So the call to actions, like earlier in the panel, we talked about the meetyourda.org, which is jam-packed with information in regards to being equipped and learning about how your DA can make certain decisions, as well as how you can plug in, right, in your community. So we definitely empower everyone to check out that site. And a couple of things that here in the GRCAC, we ask our community also ways to get involved is like following GRCAC on our social medias, as well as our email list at grcac.org. Another 3-minute ways to get involved is then checking your eligibility to vote, right? And registering to vote as well. A 10-minute, like I mentioned, is then doing your own research of meetyourda.org and even sending an email to your district attorney to let them know that you're watching how their actions impact the community, right? Like John shared earlier, was that, who is assuring that the DA is doing their job, or even more so not abusing that power, right? In a way, this is a way to letting them know that you see them and they're visible to you, right? To the community. So we definitely empower all of you to do that as well. Another one too also is then listening to a couple of podcasts as well as movies that may enlighten your education about the incarceration and mass incarceration in the US. And ongoing is then joining our political education campaign monthly meetings. Sign up in this bit.ly right here that you can find on the screen, which is GRC monthly meeting. And if you have a loved one who has been prosecuted and is currently fighting a case, we empower you to also reach out through using this email to join the participatory defense meetings and learn some ways to support your loved one. We also have a partner organization, which is the Urban Peace Movement, who you can also then connect with in regards to using less of our tax dollars for prosecution and funding more of diversion programs. And also lastly, within the GRCAC, we have compiled a digital toolkit, which has a lot of resources in learning more about the Alameda County, from your probation shift to your DA, as well as your public defenders and all of that. Feel free to scan this QR code you see on your screen to learn more and have this resource, right? Having conversations with our loved ones, our neighbors, even our friends can enlighten and also empower just community building, right? So feel free to use this toolkit to your advantage as well. And I'm just gonna give like a couple of minutes for folks to feel free to scan the document if you'd like to. And also just want to give light and gratitude to all the panelists, all of the participants, and everyone who made their time here today in joining the GRCAC political education campaign. And I also would like to flag that like Danny mentioned earlier, is that one of our ideas and what we like to really envision is that these resources and these workshops can live on forever, right? For others to essentially engage with their community and educate folks within their own network as well. So in a couple of days from now, or in weeks from now, we will update our GRCAC website, and you'll be able to toggle onto our political education campaign tab to be able to find these resources and also the recordings, and maybe even held your own events in your prospective colleges, even maybe family gatherings, maybe do it at Thanksgiving, right? Like having a presentation with your family to let them know what the DA does and how their actions are impactful. And so thank you for everyone who joined. And I would just like to open the floor again to all of the panelists if you have any last remaining thoughts. But we'd just like to thank from the Justice Reinvestment Coalition thank you for attending.
I'd really just like to highlight that last point you made, Rayland. Please reach out to us if you'd like us to speak to your student groups, your colleges, your organizations. Please let us know, and we'd be happy to come do a presentation for you all and connect you with some of the work that we got going on.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much on behalf of the Justice Reinvestment Coalition of Alameda County and all of our coalition members. We just want to say thank you guys for joining us. And please follow us. There's going to be more discussion and workshop as more availability about that regarding the district attorney and also other stakeholders as well. So thank you.
Thank you all so much. And feel free to hop off, or you can also stay and ask questions as well. Thank you, everyone.